Published 11:30 EDT, the 30th of October 2017. Updated 13:44 EDT, the 30th of October 2017. A former professional rugby player involved in a £2 million mobile phone fraud targeting hundreds of UK students has been jailed for 5 years. Secondary forward Alexander Coronias, 32, embarked upon the con with Jonathan Borman, 32, described as the big boss behind the scam, which allowed him to drive a Lamborghini and pay £12,000 a month for a rented home in Notting Hill, West London. Coronias played for London Scottish between 2008 and 2014 until being forced to retire by back injury problems. The fraudsters netted at least £2 million after some of them met through playing rugby at Birmingham University. Big boss Jonathan Borman's fraudulent earnings allowed him to pay £12,000 a month to rent a property in Notting Hill, West London. Borman and his father Michael Borman, 65, along with Robert Morrison and Charles Shelton, both 31, and Thomas Maynard, 26, all admitted their guilt. The fraudsters got students to hand over their personal information, which was used to obtain mobile phone contracts or unclaimed upgrades. Alexander Coronias, who used to play for London Scottish, has been jailed for 5 years after the £2 million phone fraud, working under the guise of companies JBI Systems Limited, JBI Capital Limited, JBI and Netlink Services UK Limited. They then gave the SIM cards to spam marketers, who used them to send thousands of texts. Contracts would also be obtained by sham businesses set up in students' names to get more handsets on a single contract. The fraudsters purported to send off for new phones before claiming they wanted it in a different color or with a different storage size. The gang's Laura Kane was jailed for 5 years and 6 months and disqualified from being a company director for 10 years. Instead of sending back the new iPhone, or equivalent, they would send back an old, cheap handset. Once they received the replacement handset, they would purport to cancel the contract and send a further dummy phone back to the companies. It left the fraudsters with 2 new mobile phones. Prosecutor David Duros said the crooks exploited weaknesses in the system without sending the real things back. A document titled JBI Directory was found by officers when they raided the company's offices back in August 2014, mapping out each of the gang's roles. Jonathan Borman was described as the prime mover behind the scheme. Charles Shelton, left, was jailed for 3 years and 3 months after admitting his role in the scam. Thomas Maynard, right, received a suspended sentence but was disqualified from being a company director for 6 years. Judge Nicholas Gledhill QC jailed him for 6 years and 4 months and disqualified him from being a company director for 12 years. Coronias was jailed for 5 years and disqualified from being a company director for 10 years. Kane was jailed for 5 years and 6 months and disqualified from being a company director for 10 years. Maynard was jailed for 2 years, suspended for 2 years, ordered to do 160 hours of unpaid work and disqualified from being a company director for 6 years. Rawson was jailed for 2 years, suspended for 2 years, ordered carry out 160 hours of unpaid work and disqualified from being a company director for 5 years. Shelton was handed a 3-year and 3-month prison sentence and disqualified from being a company director for 6 years. Morrison was jailed for 2 years and 3 months and disqualified from being a company director for 5 years. Rawson, left, received a suspended sentence but was banned from directing companies for 6 years, while Kane, right, was jailed for more than 5 years and banned from being a company director for a decade. Mikhail Borman will be sentenced at a later date, with a further court hearing will determining what his specific involvement was in the con. Laura Kane, 27, and Reece Rawson, 31, denied any involvement in the fraud but were convicted by jury earlier this month. Mr. Duros said they undertook roles in respect of payments and administration, as well as having something of a PA role to Mr. Borman. Michael and Jonathan Borman, of Devonshire Buildings, Bath, admitted 2 counts of conspiracy to commit fraud and 1 of transferring, concealing, and converting criminal property. Coronias, of Marchmont Road, Richmond, southwest London, admitted 2 counts of conspiracy to commit fraud and 1 of transferring, concealing and converting criminal property. Rawson, of Ranelagh Mansions, New Kings Road, Fulham and Kane, of Elm Road, Kidderminster, denied and were convicted of 2 counts of conspiracy to commit fraud and 1 of transferring, concealing and converting criminal property. Robert Morrison admitted 2 counts of conspiracy to commit fraud after hundreds of UK students had their details stolen. Maynard, of Pagoda Gardens, Blackheath, South East London, admitted 2 counts of conspiracy to commit fraud. Morrison, of Hardwicke Square, Wandsworth, Southwest London, admitted 2 counts of conspiracy to commit fraud. Shelton, of Ridgeway, Wimbledon, Southwest London, admitted 2 counts of conspiracy to commit fraud. Stephen Rowland, from the CPS Specialist Fraud Division, said these defendants set out to systematically defraud significant sums of money from mobile phone companies, encouraging students to take out contracts as part of the scheme, as well as the 6-figure sums lost by the companies. Their actions caused significant financial hardship to dozens of young people, many of whom were left with severely damaged credit ratings. The CPS worked closely with the police from an early stage in order to build a strong case, with the result that 6 defendants pleaded guilty in the face of the evidence against them and 2 further defendants were convicted at trial.